Okay, welcome to another episode of Sneaking Into Movies. I am your host, Chris St. Jean, along with Jason Tate, as always. Jason, how are we today?
We're good. We're good.
Doing good? Okay. Well, today we're going to be talking about 1987 seminal classic Wall Street by Oliver Stone. We're going to be looking back at some classic movies moving forward here. We love this one. Jason, great suggestion. Tell me why you picked Wall Street as the movie we're going to review today.
Uh, I think because I watched it when I was a kid and there's no way I understood it. And now
Right.
that I understand money a lot more, I see that people still don't understand the movie
Yeah.
and they don't understand stocks. They're just told, he has a line in there where he said, why can't fund managers beat the S&P? Because they're sheep. And that's in 1987. Fast forward to 2024 and people are like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this because I saw it on TikTok or YouTube
Right.
or my neighbor told me to do this. So I think that
Uh,
it's a movie about money and it's the largest growing equity class. Equities are the largest growing class at the moment. So people probably need to revisit a little bit of the shenanigans from the past because I think it still goes on today.
Now, Jason, interesting context for the listeners out there. Jason has a background in financial services and as an adult here helps with financial planning, etc. So his filter looking through it again as a professional now is so interesting. Like you said, historic performance, predicts like future outcomes. So yeah, but you know what? The sort of saying in the movie about greed is good. Greed and that human emotion, we never learn from it. Not this exact movie, but did you see the what's the financial movie? I'm always trying to like Jeremy Irons in it.
Is that The Big Short?
No,
Not The
not
Big
Big
Short.
Short. Sorry, the smaller one. I'm like completely drawing a
Margin
blank.
Call?
Margin Call. Margin Call is a fantastic film, but he talks about how like greed we just never learn. It's like we always are going to be doing that because it's an insatiable, emotion. And if we did satiate it, we wouldn't progress as a, species. So it's sort of like a byproduct of progress. Okay, so you're looking at it. That's so interesting as a financial professional coming back and seeing it. Now, we to that point we were doing the 80s, but we also had the crash in the 2000s and seemingly another one based on that same sort of principle here. So okay, well that's interesting. Financial well, tell me what you liked about it as a kid. Did you watch it a lot?
Well, I think I liked it because it was Charlie Sheen was huge back then.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay, I want to watch this because Charlie Sheen's in it. Again, I don't think I necessarily understood it. It just seemed pretty interesting, and you just
Yeah.
watch. It's like reading adult books that you get half of it. But
Right.
I gotta say, I watched it again and I loved it. I love the way it was shot. I love that the first time you see Gordon Gekko, it's just like a little crack through the door, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, wait, no, you're not ready. And watching it, I didn't know what imposter syndrome was when I was a kid, obviously. And I'm watching it going, I think that most people can relate to when they think they're too big for the pond they're in. And then they meet someone in that lake and you go, oh, I can do this.
Right.
And you realize, oh, I'm so in over my head. It is the cautionary tale, Greek mythology level to cautionary tale.
Yes, like Icarus. You know what? I definitely saw it as a kid. I thought the same thing was certainly like just from a performance standpoint was excellent. You know what? As I look back on it, I see it, obviously I'm not a financial professional, but you know what's interesting is I see this movie and like The Wolf of Wall Street as yes, there's this message about greed and the dangers or the consequences of it. But I also really like the lifestyle. So it's like it's so interesting how we can be ethically aware of that with money, but willing to sort of put that aside of like, yeah, but we all have that sort of line here. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. What I wanted to talk about is the director, because obviously Oliver Stone is an icon filmmaker. So I have his IMDb pulled up. So I'm just going to read off a couple of his films here. So really, no one really knew him until like the mid '80s was Salvador, about the war journalist, the photographer, which was excellent. James Woods, great debut, so to speak. Then 1986 again had Platoon, which is just,
Great movie.
probably that's just a fantastic film. That really may be his best film. So we followed that up with 1987's Wall Street. I think a big hit. Honestly, I don't remember looking at like the box office, so to speak. I want to say that was a hit based on just like you said, the actors. Charlie Sheen was like big star at the time, so there's that. Then 89. Excuse me. Did you see Talk Radio? 1988's Talk Radio.
Is that like Eric Bogosian? I don't remember who was in it.
I hold on. Let me look at this one. It's like I vaguely remember seeing it. It's Eric Bogosian, Ellen Green, and Leslie Hope.
Absolutely do not remember it, but I saw it. Don't remember it.
Yeah, I
think
like
that was
guy.
one of those over my head kind of things when I was a kid.
Eric, we've seen him in a few. He's definitely in some other stuff. Alec Baldwin's in it. Yeah, you know what? I definitely like seen it at IMC, but did not stick with me, so to speak. There. So let's give that one a pass because you can't have 3 tons of homers in a row here. So we follow that with another. I thought this was excellent. 1989's Born on the 4th of July with Tommy Cruise. Movie. Fantastic. The Doors, and then a bunch of other ones. JFK. Did you see JFK?
I don't remember JFK.
JFK is on IMDb his best rated film.
Really?
No, Platoon. I'm sorry. Platoon is a little bit right above it, but those are 2 seminal films of his. I don't know. I'm mixed on JFK. I've seen it, but I think I prefer some of his other films. But we're here to talk about Wall Street. So I have this friend who has this theory that all artists basically have like a 3. If they're a musician, they get 3 great albums. If they're a director, they get 3 great films. And then everything else is sort of a descent into mediocrity. So I think he kind of breaks the mold. Maybe a few filmmakers in America can do that, but I think he's had more than 3 that are excellent. So good for him. So let's talk about, I don't know, maybe the other part about it where it's like the other thing I wrote down was like the father-son relationship of Ben in real life and in the movie, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was. I have a father, and sometimes you go, "Oh yeah, no, I know what's best," and sometimes they say they know what's best, and this was one of those cases where, in the end, although he burned his father and he disrespected his father was there till the end.
Right.
And I think that's what J.D. Vance means, that people that aren't parents, they just can't understand. They would have just walked away. I'm just kidding. But it showed the relationship arc from when, in the beginning, he's borrowing money from his dad to live a lifestyle that his dad's like, you can't live this lifestyle. It doesn't make sense. It's not maintainable, to basically throwing money in his face. And in the end, your dad's still there going,
bailing you out.
Okay, well, you're back, right?
Yeah.
Like, no harm, no foul. And I think that's the power of parenting, where you just figure out, okay, let's just forgive and forget. It's not worth it. I still want to be there.
I guess consider the alternative. What's the alternative? Completely abandon you've abandoned your child. You've abandoned your boy. So you want to do that. So yeah, that's interesting, Jason. You're pulling out a father aspect of that sort of message there. I thought it was great. I've always, thought it was interesting. I'll be perfectly honest. As a kid, I was ignorant to the, Martin Sheen, sort of connection. But it was excellent.
Also, just real quick. Yes. His birth name is Martin Estevez. And I think he is actually, that makes Charlie Sheen biracial, I think. And I don't know if he identifies as white or Hispanic. I'm joking.
Jason, I know. You know when you say Charlie Sheen, I think of like those kind of outbursts that happened a little bit recently, and I immediately think of like Tiger Blood. He's got like
I thought a tiger, as soon as he got punched in the mouth and the blood came, I was like, Tiger Blood.
Yeah. That sometimes a person sort of owns a unique saying that you never, you're not really interested, you're not really hear before. So, okay. So yeah, Charlie Sheen was excellent though in it. His dad was excellent. I do want to talk about Gordon Gekko because such a big. I mean, that name. It's like sometimes a character transcends an actor, which is kind of a testament to maybe both the character and the actor. But I thought that was so good. But you know what's interesting is like in that movie, the risk he took on that airline just seems so like I don't know. Maybe it's essential to the plot, but it just seemed like a little bit of a stretch there for some reason.
I think it's one of those things where you look at it from a normal person perspective, where like, oh my god, you might lose millions. But
Yeah.
when there was a line in the movie where he said, "I make $800,000 a day."
Yeah.
So really, even if you lost 10 million, I think it was 10, 15 million.
I see. It's just a cut.
Whatever. That's
It's a
2
stretch.
weeks.
I see. You know what? When you say that, sorry, my slight detour here, but I want to say the state of Texas sued Meta, and like for some disgusting, this crazy amount, and they won. And I like Meta's payouts are like billions of dollars, and to that point, it's like they're making so much money. Like, yeah, I guess it will just put us on a payment plan, state of Texas, for like
I
some
mean, but
privacy issue.
it isn't that kind of the Gordon Gekko thing, is like, if we get caught, we made so much money.
It's that's so interesting you say that, because it's like, say you have a criminal enterprise, you save all this money, you bury it. Like what's the guy from Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort? I mean, I'm sure he's sold a book about selling this pen or something, or done some public appearances, but he seems to hold on to some of that money somewhere. There must have been some like hidden the mattress kind of.
I want to tell you something funny real quick. So we're watching it last night, and there's this line where he asks someone a question, and he goes, "Wouldn't you agree?" And I laughed, and she laughed, because that is one of the sales techniques that they still use today. Like a micro agreement where you just go, "Wouldn't you agree?" And I'm going, wow, they've been doing that since the 80s.
Yeah, you'd say that's right, Jason. It's like saying your name. There's all those little tactics. It's so interesting as I pick that up, because I talk to vendors trying to sell me sometimes, and it's like you pick up exactly on those same patterns of like, name recognition and positive reinforcement there. But you also have people who can see through that. It's so interesting. Other salespeople can see those like and not be sort of like put under the spell of those sayings here. Yeah, but anyway, it was that's so funny. 700,000. Remember, he like pulled out his cell phone. It was like that giant brick cell phone on the.
Or when you have the little Sony TV.
Yeah,
and the guy's like, I can barely see the screen. And he's like, that thing was probably $3,000 back then. I like greed. I like it. I think that's why we had a President Greed, and maybe future President Greed. People like it. They love a lifestyle that they can never live.
The lifestyle of the rich and
aspirational.
It's aspirational.
You think one day that's going to be me one day?
Yes,
well, probably. Yes. Probably not.
Probably not. That is statistically correct there. It's lifestyles of the rich and famous, and most of that is exactly aspirational. The one part, what sticks out to me as I think back about it in the movie, I forget the character's name, but it was a big backed bro. I mean, it's a big guy. He worked for Gordon Gekko in his room, and he's like, closing at $50, and he like puts on, this guy's a killer. You remember that guy?
Yeah, he said he's a killer, whatever. Yeah. He doesn't. You wouldn't think that, and I'm going, wow, fat shaming has been around for a long time.
Yes,
it's still.
But it just made me as like a. At least he was in the room. It made me as a young kid, sort of like, you know what, your talent can supersede your sort of perception.
But you're never going to be the front face. You'll always be the back. Not. You'll be the back of the house guy. Hey, back of the house guy gets rich.
Yeah, quack guy gets rich. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Steve Ballmer got super rich, and he's like the number 3 employee, and he's not a guy you would put on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got the energy and all, but he didn't have the look. He didn't have the boyish charm look. Like him and Wozniak were in the back room.
Yeah. Did you see those videos where he's so sweaty and he went on stage and he's like, what do we got to do? Developers. It's like the fun. I love it. Actually, his enthusiasm, people call it cringe, but I find it fun. And maybe that's why he's such a motivator and got to be where he is here. Okay, we went from Wall Street to Steve Ballmer. Let's bring it back into this. They made a sequel with one Mr. Shia LaBeouf. Did you see that one?
I did. Was Michael Douglas in the
Yes, he was.
sequel? I don't. Was
Yes.
he Gordon Gekko again?
Yes, he was. Of course, he got out of jail. He has rehabbed. His daughter fell in love with one Mr. Shia LaBeouf, and that's the story. It's not nearly as good, of course. No soul. Sort of, you can't kind of recapture that feeling of the first one, but it was okay. It was okay, but it was one of those so long ago that it was just sort of a commercial shell of a movie.
What now? Thinking about Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
What did you think of Wolf of Wall Street?
Love it.
Compared to this one.
I actually have watched Wolf of Wall Street a lot of times. I don't know. I probably think Wall Street is a little more gritty. I kind of like that filmmaking style as opposed to like Wolf of Wall Street is very commercial. I mean, I've got to think it's Scorsese's one of his most successful films commercially. I mean, always had some big hits over the years, but a ton of people saw this one and Leo and all the sort of awards and everything. I do love it. My favorite part of Wolf of Wall Street is when he first gets to that like call center after he kind of gets humbled and goes there and he has that script and he talks about Aerodyne, cutting edge, next level generation radar with both commercial and residential capabilities, imminent patent approval. Now, right now, the stock. I love that scene of just like the power of persuasion, and that has a lot of those little tactics in there too about like setting, points of like, expectation. So yeah, I love that movie.
He's the sales guru. Him and like Grant Cardone and some of these other guys out there. That's the new Salesforce, which I know that the old guard is probably like, what is this? Isn't effective. This isn't effective.
I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, it is.
Listen, I know that super aggressive thing. It must work, or they wouldn't. It must work on some people. It really must. It's like kryptonite. It's like some sort of thing to me. I have an aversion to that kind of like sales presentation. I'm gonna, the animated character Hank Hill from King of the Hill. He sells propane and propane related accessories. And Mr. Hill's sales philosophy is to be highly educated, to take care of when there was a whole episode about the customers came in and he just told them everything they needed to know. And they may not have bought right then, but they would come back and he established himself as the preeminent like expert on propane and propane related accessories in the mid-Texas region. So that's how he did it. And that's how I think, in my mind, that's like a better long-term strategy. Like those slick guys, it's like, okay, but are you building long-term trust or are you just trying to extract as much as you can and then move on to the next one?
But those are the people that you buy whatever they're selling, and when you call back in 3 months and go, hey, this wasn't what I expected, they're like, John doesn't work here anymore. He took that money and ran.
Yes, that's funny. Okay, Jason, we're coming up on 18 minutes. We wanted to keep it a little bit shorter than this. What else do we want to talk about Wall Street? We both like it. Seminal classic, director, actors, the financial perspective. What else do we want to talk about?
There was one thing. There was the use of lighting. I'm not a technical person at all, but there were scenes when it kind of just went dark. He faded into the darkness, or there was like the lighting was dark on him, and he made it ominous. You didn't even have to hear what was going on, and you could just see, okay, this isn't a good person. He's not. Ooh. He does not have your best interest in mind. Now, one question: do you think if he had actually just followed directions, he would have stayed out of jail and been super rich?
No, not super rich. I feel like there's certainly cases, as we talk about purely fictional characters here, certainly cases that people do follow the rules, so to speak. But I think in those things, it's like you got to be able to bend. You have to bend the rules right till it breaks to be able to get that level of success. I don't think Gordon Gekko was even playing by this sort of like by the book kind of thing. He was looking for angles and opportunities.
I
So
I
he just went a little to the story of Icarus. Charlie Sheen just went a little too close to the sun.
I'll have to say, after watching that again, I realized that Billions is literally just a ripoff of Wall Street.
Yeah.
100%. It's just a ripoff. He had the same technique, the same kind of arrogance, and I'm like, oh, okay, you just wanted a long form version of Gordon Gekko. I got you.
Well, the character works. People do like exactly right. They want, because you know what it is? We want not just the lifestyle, but I think so many of us, when you have these like, I don't know, life responsibilities and bills and things, it sort of forces you into a little bit of a timidness of just like, I got to stay off the radar, stay out the way, just to sort of keep going. And when you see someone with that much personality and bravado and all that, it just sort of, you're, again, aspirational. So, okay, classic movie. We both loved it. We're going to dig out another one for the next episode here, Jason. But okay, well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next time.
Okay, goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.